Hey, what's going on, everybody? Indie Pride here with Milk and Cookies Total War. Here with the Master of Sieges, Mr. Pixelated Apollo. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me. Yes, I am the absolute master. No one can match me.
Literally famous worldwide. Jennifer Lopez knows exactly who you are.
She speed dial right now. I'll call her up. I'll prove it.
She loves your videos, dude. I heard it.
She does.
So
yeah.
we are here today in a Gallic city, going to try to be storming the walls here against a confederation of Tylus and Getae, which is an interesting ahistorical matchup. But basically what we're going to be trying to do here is spam swords, and you know that that's what Rome does better than any other faction in the game. My army setup is going to be a main line of Hastati. They're going to be the meat shields, the guys that soak up all the enemy skirmish fire as I move up. Very cost effective, very cheap, very solid unit. Then behind that I have some Armored Legionnaires and some Evocati cohort, and on the siege towers themselves I have my Veteran Legionnaires. Beautiful men. They're going to be the ones first into the breach. They're literally really beautiful. And then I have 2 Legionary Cavalry and 1 Legatus, and I also have 2 Syrian Archers just to do a little bit of skirmishing before I get up onto the walls. But my little secret weapon here that maybe my opponents would not have expected is that I actually have 2 Roman Scorpions as well, and I'll talk a little bit about that after we get into the replay. But Apollo, you want to go over your army setup?
Yeah, so I basically have the same exact army because I was like, hey, give me some advice because you're better at me at this game. So I pretty much built the same army. I've got a couple units of Syrian archers. I've got some Hastati, which now looking at my deployment, I have them in the back when really they should be in the front, Anyways, not the best decision there, but whatever. I'll deal with it. And then in the front, I've got some Legionary cohort pushing up the siege equipment. I have a Roman heavy onager. And yeah, I've got some first cohort pushing up ladders, and that's pretty much the gist of my army.
Okay, so we can get into the replay now. Press 3, 2, 1, press play, and get into it. So we are against a confederation of Getae and Tylus. And Tylus, we're going to talk about the factions a little bit here. So Tylus is one of those factions in the game that is extremely strong in the meta. And this is, a lot of you guys are already going to know this, especially if you follow my channel a lot. You know a lot about Rome 2, you know about the metas or whatever. But there are certainly going to be viewers of ours that don't know as much about Rome 2. So I just want to talk about this a little bit. So Tylus is a sword spam faction. They are one of the strongest factions in the game, and one of the biggest reasons for that is they have these tribal warriors. 95 armor, and they only cost, I believe, 700 or 720 talents. So they are a really cheap sword and extremely, extremely tanky. So tribal warriors going to be very difficult to push off the walls because they're very cost effective, good melee attack, good weapon damage, and crazy high armor. And so that's a scary unit for Tylus. For Getae, the noble swords and the Falksmen are going to be the things that we kind of have to worry about. Now, Falksmen are really cheap, very low armor, but good charge bonus. So Getae could get some good charges off there. And
so they're like glass cannons.
Exactly.
Basically.
They're like Zweihanders, except they don't have any armor from Medieval 2. And then the noble swords are going to be the real threat for Getae. They're elite sword units. But I believe Gojira, who's playing as Tylus, only brought 2 of them, or as Getae, only brought 2 of them, so he actually brought a lot more skirmish power, and Granitor, who's playing as Tylus, actually brought a lot of these swords, so he's kind of doing the sword spam thing that we are.
Yeah, and that was the main reason why we picked the Romans, because you were like, oh, great, they're very strong infantry-based factions. We have to counter them with our very strong infantry swordsmen. So, yeah, that's the main reason we both picked the Romans.
Yeah, they're one of the best, maybe the best attacking factions in this game in a siege, simply because, and Romans, of course, were known for this in real history as well, they could field so many very cost-effective legionnaires. And so that's going to be the deal here, is that we just bring a ton of those cost-effective, heavily armored swordsmen. They're going to storm the walls, and it's just going to be trying to push them off and overpower them, basically. That's what the Romans used to do. They would just try to outmuscle their opponents, and very often succeeded at that. So my first tactic in this game is going to be using the Roman Scorpions to whittle away some of the HP of the 95 armor Tylus tribal warriors. So you can see I've already done some damage here. I wasn't able to go into first-person mode, which I really love doing in sieges with catapults and artillery and stuff because it's so much fun. It's like a little mini game. You can actually control where your artillery is going. But the Scorpions are very accurate. They don't do a ton of damage. They don't blast away units like something like a Onager would if it hit directly in the center of the unit. But what they do is they're very accurate, and they can whittle away that HP and kill like 2 or 3 guys with a single volley, and just kind of whittle them down over time. And so that's what I wanted to do. They're only at they're at 156 out of 160 men. As more come in, oh god, that guy just got headshotted.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, so like that's what they do. Like they're shooting over buildings. That's how accurate they are. But
it's very smart for them to keep them behind these buildings too.
Exactly. It's going to deflect some of the shots.
And that's also telling me that they want to defend the outer walls because they're staying close.
Mm-hmm. So I've done more HP damage than it looks. Like they've lost 5 men, but I've done more HP damage. So they're going to be easier to kill once my veteran legionnaires get up on the walls. But what we were talking about, or what I was talking about in the game while we were playing, is that like there are 3 different tactics you can use in a siege battle. The first is you can sally out and just kind of use cavalry and like highly mobile units and try to strike at a attacking faction outside the walls. That's kind of difficult, but for something like Parthia or Armenia or the eastern factions, that's what you want to do. You want to bring a lot of cavalry and kind of go straight at your opponent. And then some factions like to just let you into the city, especially ones with really high charge bonus units. They'll kind of let you into the city and then get good charges on you once your units are in. And then there are some, which I think Tylus and Gate fit into, they're going to want to defend the walls really hard because that's where the tribal warriors are going to shine. When they're on the walls and your siege towers get there, they're going to be the first ones there holding all the legionnaires back and making sure they don't like breach and get far into the city, because once Roman legionnaires get into the city, they're hard to deal with. So they're going to defend the walls like with the utmost power they can right now.
Yeah, that's the cool thing I like about Rome too, is that there's a lot of different strategies you can bring to the table in a siege battle. With Medieval 2, it's pretty one-dimensional. I mean, you can try little creative things. You can try to sally out and get some kills, but you know, you really have to play to the faction's play style, their strengths in Rome 2. But right now, my Romans are charging up. They're scaling up the ladders here, getting their swords wet. They're ready to go.
Wow, that sounded really dirty.
It does, and that's why I say it all the time. People are like, you sound so... I say it all the time. It's my thing now.
It's glorious. Yeah, no, they're little. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're literally getting their swords
wet with blood.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. So
I don't know what you were thinking about.
I don't know either. I'm just, I guess I have a dirty mind. So the legionnaires are going to be the first ones into the breach, and on your side, you're going to be sending in, what are these units again? These are first cohort.
Yeah.
Okay. So first cohort have that morale buff. It's interesting that you send them up. Normally, I would say that you want to let first cohort go in a little bit after to buff the morale of your units. You want them to, because they have that morale buffing capability. So like they'll help Hastati or others stay in melee combat for longer. But the interesting thing here is that you kind of, with the ladders, you want to send your best troops up first, because they're going to be the guys that establish that beachhead and allow you to get some of your other units into the city. If you send Hastati up first, they're just going to rout. They're going to die right off the bat. If you send a first cohort or an armored legionnaire up first, they're going to be able to establish that beachhead. So I'm going to kind of follow that same strategic thinking, but I'm actually going to send my veteran legionnaires up first. And that's because they aren't my best unit. They aren't the most elite unit that I have, but they're good enough that they're going to be able to establish the beachhead for me. So I want to kind of whittle down the tribal warriors and some of these other units with my good but not my best troops. And then I can send in the armored legionnaires and the evocati, and then they're really going to kick ass when they get up on the walls. So that was kind of my thinking over on this side. And the interesting thing is I actually brought more siege towers than you. The siege towers are better for a couple of reasons. They deflect incoming arrow fire and that stuff, obviously a lot better than ladders do. But they also allow more troops to get up on the walls at the exact same time.
Yes.
But you have the Onager, so it's like we're just using different strategies here to get up on the walls, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, that's the same thing with Medieval 2 siege battles. So the siege towers, you know, block a lot of arrow fire, and ladders. Ladders are just the great thing about ladders is that they're quicker, they're faster to set up.
They're faster onto the walls too, so they're exposed to fire for less time, basically.
Right. So this is just a big old brawl. Like, this is just complete massacre, slaughter, just trying to conquer this first wall. And we have a lot of reserves just kind of waiting for the command to charge in. But this is just a big old bloodbath.
And I feel really bad for the first guys onto the walls, because you know that Whoever gets sent up first, they're dead. Like, it's suicide. Like, I can't imagine being in a situation like that where
Hey.
the siege tower opens up and you just look at a bunch of angry barbarians staring at your face and you're like, oh Jesus Christ, what have I got myself into?
Exactly. But you know, if you're the first one in, you're the first one that gets the plunder. So
There we go. So they're gonna be the first to rape the barbarian woman and get all the gold.
exactly. So there's something to fight for.
That went to a dark place really quickly. Sorry.
Hey, you know, you're only staying historically true.
Yeah,
So
it's what happened.
yeah.
People were douches back then.
I know. I mean, people are douches today.
Well, yeah,
so.
but morality was worse. Morality was worse 2,000 years ago. I will say that. Like,
Yeah,
we've evolved a little bit at least.
A little bit. I think the world has been more peaceful than ever in today's world,
Yeah.
which is kind of sad, you know, because the world is still fairly violent. But yeah, I mean, there's really no like intense tactic strategy here. We're just trying to claim the walls, and it's just a matter of brute force.
Yeah, just overpowering them, getting our guys up to the wall, seeing if we can cut them down. And you know what? The Romans do that better than most factions.
Yep.
They
And
get in there and kill stuff.
back over at this onager, he was actually really sneaky. He sent in some raiding horsemen and killed my onager, so I was not able to open the gate. So now I'm pushing forward a ram with my legionary cohort. So that was unfortunate. I was a little sad about that.
Yeah, that sucks.
But I am making some progress up on the walls here.
Yeah, so this is more of the kind of cinematic style game. There
Yeah.
are some Rome 2 games and some Medieval 2 games where it's all like strategy and what are we doing to really outmaneuver our opponent. I wouldn't say that in general sieges are the most strategic. They can be. Like if you've seen my Fall of Athens video with Oakley, you know that strategy can be a really important part of sieges.
Yeah.
Like you fall back to a certain point where you have deployables, where you can send balls down a hill and kill like an entire unit with flaming fireballs, that kind
Right.
of thing, or like strategically fall back to different choke points in the city. But this is more like they're going balls deep to defend the walls and making
Yeah.
sure that we can't get into the city. So from that standpoint, that's going to be more of a let's just fight and see who takes the walls, and whoever does is probably going to win.
Yeah, that's the thing about siege battles is that it's a different kind of strategy. Like pitch battles is more about making decisions quickly and executing, or yeah, pitch battles. But siege battles are more like a chess game, where you can watch your opponent, you can see what they have, but it's a matter of making smart moves, making decisions, and trying to outposition your opponent. But this is just, yeah, I could just sit back and watch this all day.
Looks so awesome. Like
Yeah.
it's better than any. The one thing that I've noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed it either, but there are very few good movies in this kind of time frame, or even in like medieval period or anything like that. Like I would love to see a movie that does combat like this. Like I'm not saying that this is historically accurate. Obviously storming walls in a siege is normally a horrible idea. You need to
Right.
outnumber the defenders by like 4-1, 5-1, 10-1
Yes.
to even hope to take the walls from an opponent. So very few sieges like this happened historically. But just seeing like true legionary combat or something like that, like there are just very few movies that do that correctly, and that's something that I would really love to see, because I mean it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, most people back then would just kind of wait out their opponent. Like, why charge in when you can just starve them to death? But you know, it's a really good movie that captures a really good siege environment. It's not a very accurate movie historically, but Kingdom of Heaven.
I love that movie. That's one of the few that like, and I love the Crusades period as well.
Yeah, the Crusade and the Jihad and stuff. It's so interesting. And that one part towards the end of the movie in the Kingdom of Heaven, when they're fighting at that one choke point, that really just captures the pure like brute force in this kind of combat.
Yeah, there are cheesy parts of that movie, like I think the love affair and stuff, and like there's a little bit of Hollywood cliche in there, but the cinematography in that movie is absolutely beautiful. Like there's that one shot of the cavalry with Orlando Bloom running out into the desert, and they're completely
Right.
surrounded, and then like all the Arab cavalrymen just completely surround them and encircle them. Like just a beautiful shot right there. We're getting a little off track, but that's alright. Because again, this isn't the most tactical battle. It's more like stab Tylus, stab tribal warriors in the face. That's all you do.
Yeah, it's a matter of just throwing in your troops and saying good luck. But yeah, good luck, have fun. If I moved up my general here just to kind of give up give my men some extra morale. My men are still breaking over here, but he was kind of pushing me back here. The tribal warriors, I was losing my ground, so I was a little concerned there, but I do have, a couple reserves here. I got my legionary cohort with the ram trying to knock down this gate. Seems like they've been doing it for a while. But you over there, you look like you're making some headway a little bit. It's so even.
Yeah, it is. But when you're even with the defender, like this early in the battle, you're winning basically, because it should be really, really hard for you to even establish that beachhead, and I was able to. So I have a bunch of troops on the walls now, and like some of his tribal warriors, 60 men out of 160 are routing, and that's a problem for him, because I'm moving in now. A lot of this stuff is just like simply routing from the field. So Gojira did a very good job with his Dacian bowmen. He got some really good shots off. He got about 100 kills with each of his Dacian bowmen, and these guys are actually decent in melee as well. So he was shooting into a bunch of my armor legionnaires and some of my more important units.
Oh yeah, I see that.
But they're actually out of ammunition now, I believe, because at least he's not shooting anymore, and they don't have their bows out. So I think they're out of ammunition. But so over on this side, this part of the battle, where I was climbing up on the siege towers, I've won. I've won my
yes.
part. You're struggling a little bit more because they had way more units over here. They had most of Gatei's melee troops and like maybe half or a quarter of the tribal warriors and the other Tylus troops. So you're having a harder time, but what they've done here is kind of mess up, because now I have a bunch of troops that are now free that can charge into the flank of the guys that are already in the city. So
yeah,
that's going to make it really hard for them.
Yeah, I realized that you were winning, and all I had to do is just hold and just kind of wait for you. And I noticed that the general for Tylus here is defeated. He broke off the battlefield. So I was really, really hopeful about that, because usually barbaric factions, when their general is defeated or dies, their morale just goes to crap.
Yeah, and of course, when we say barbarian, like that's how they're referred to in this game, it is Roman propaganda completely. A lot of Gatei and Galatia and Arverni were great weaponsmiths and metalworkers, and they weren't actually barbarians. They just had a different culture. So of course, Rome's gonna make them act like animals. Oh, we can kill them all. It's fine. It's not bad, because they're just like cows basically. They're not real people.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, if you look throughout history, that's what everyone does. I mean, you look at the Nazis, what they did with the Jews. They dehumanized them to where it's so easy for people to kill them, because they're like you said, cattle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I use the term barbarian loosely. You know, they say that the Romans were defeated by barbarians, but that's just, they're very sophisticated. Like, they were not just like mindless barbarians.
Like, oh, I'm gonna get naked and just run into combat because I'm Berserker Rage. Although of course that was kind of like swayby, and like it was a thing, but like they were still intelligent.
Yeah.
Beings that had their own trade and economy and all that stuff.
Right. So I'm finally making some headway in this corner here. I'm breaking a lot of troops, and actually, you know what really helped me was my Syrian archers. Once they ran out of ammo, I used them to kind of flank around their position and cause some fear, because their flank was exposed. But then I noticed he's sending in some mercenary axe warriors, and I was like, oh god, here we go again. Another grind fest of fighting of infantry. Yeah,
and that's what Emperor Edition is. The patch 15 for Rome 2, it just made melee fights like this. And this is great for single player players, and in some ways it was good for multiplayer, in some ways it was bad. So the interesting thing about patch 15 was that it made combat last a lot longer. You can't simply just overpower your opponent and rout them from the field really quick. It made fights take a lot longer. So from a cinematic standpoint, it's amazing. It makes the battles feel a lot more immersive, I think. From a pure micro standpoint, a lot of multiplayer players didn't like that change as much, because if you take a really good engagement in previous Total Wars, especially like Shogun 2, if you take a good engagement and outplay your opponent, you expect to rout them in seconds. Like instantly, and you get rewarded for that, because you did a good move, you out-microed your opponent, and then they rout, and you can kind of snowball from there and take the field even easier. In Rome 2 Emperor Edition, you can take a really good engagement, and then, because like your opponent made a mistake or something, and then they have the time to reinforce or like fix their mistake, which isn't necessarily the best for competitive multiplayer, even though I think that Rome 2 competitive multiplayer, obviously this game's old at this point, but it's in a good spot. Like, multiplayer is, except for the sword spam, it's like relatively balanced, and it's a lot of fun, and people love the cinematic aspect of this game. But It's just interesting, like, there's the different perspectives on that.
Yeah, and coming from my background, where I come from Medieval 2, which is, you know, the troops have, like, endless morale, I prefer to have my troops fighting for a longer time, but I can definitely appreciate good tactics. And, like, for example, you were talking about Shogun 2. You know, sometimes I want to get on Shogun 2 because it's all about tactics in that game. And
it's all about taking good engagements, and when you take a good engagement, you get rewarded with routing in seconds. So it's just, it's a very different style. Very different style. The interesting thing between Medieval 2 sieges and Rome 2 sieges, of course, is that the defenders don't have unbreakable morale in Rome 2, or Attila for that matter. So in Medieval 2, if you're in the capture point in the center of the city, the victory point, you aren't going to rout, and that means the defender has a much higher likelihood of winning because their troops are going to fight to the last man. In Rome 2, that isn't going to happen.
Which is more historically accurate.
Well, yeah, of course. Like, just because you're in the city doesn't mean you're going to fight to the last man. I mean, some people would run screaming like little girls.
It depends on the situation. Like, if it's your last city, you know. But that's what I mean. I like that about Medieval 2. I know it's not like the most historically accurate thing, but it can create some amazing last stands in the game. So again, for cinematic purposes, it's pretty awesome.
It's cool seeing the last like 5 Zweihanders or whatever charge into 500 guys, because that wouldn't happen in Rome 2. Your guys would have already routed by then.
Yeah, exactly.
See how many they can kill at the end.
But at this point, here's some tactics here. We've got some cav in the flank of the general for good day, or how's it pronounced?
Gate.
Gate, that's it. I was the way I remember how to pronounce it. I was thinking of good day, like good day.
Good day, mate.
Good day,
mate.
Mate.
Crikey, mate, that one has my. I'm sorry, Australian people. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I did that.
Forgive me.
Forgive me, please.
But yeah, we were doing cycle charges on the back of this general, and he would just not die.
They're noble swords. They're really, really effing tanky. So yeah, it's gonna take a long time. And of course, in sieges, this is one thing that really pisses me off about Medieval 2, but it's to an extent true in Rome 2 as well. Rome 2 units are much more responsive, and so they'll charge when you tell them to in a city, but it's hard for them to get their full momentum. In Medieval 2, when you try to charge in a city environment, half the time your guys simply won't charge. They'll just walk into the enemy troops, which is really frustrating.
That's why I often, when I look over army comps and they bring a lot of cav, I'm just like, that's not a good decision, because cav is pretty much useless inside a city.
Yeah. Which sucks.
Yeah, it sucks because you can have some, you know, if it wasn't like that, you could have some pretty cool strategies with cav.
Well, see, like that, like they charged at the last second, but they barely got a charge bonus there. Like they didn't get any good momentum into that charge. So yeah, I guess it even happens in Rome 2 sometimes as well, even though the units are much more responsive.
Yeah.
So it looks like actually I think the noble swords are about, they pop shield wall. I think they're gonna pop headhunt relatively soon here. We've only killed 60 men. Like they're still at half strength after 2 hammer angles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these noble swords are hard to kill.
Yeah, at this point we're looking pretty good though, because because once the Romans are in the streets, it's hard to stop them.
There are too many cost-effective swords, too many high attack, high armor units that can. It'll take a while to whittle down a noble sword, but we will. They will die eventually, and especially with the hammer and anvils. But it's one of those things where your cav's going to start taking HP damage, and every time they charge, they're going to take more and more casualties. So the thing with cavalry, they have very high HP in this game. So they're not going to die in the first couple of charges, and then all of a sudden, like a bunch of them will drop like flies.
Yeah.
And that's when things get scary. And then if you lose a gen in that situation, Romans are not civilized. I can't even remember what the trait. I need to look at what the name of the trait is. But they don't necessarily take the biggest morale penalty when the gen dies, but they still take a morale penalty, and it can still lose you a game if you lose your gen at the wrong point in time. Disciplined is the word I was looking for.
Oh, right.
Romans are disciplined, so they have a discipline trait, which means that if they lose the gen, they take a morale penalty, but it's not as bad as a barbarian faction.
Yeah, and you're outflanking your opponent here with your Hastati. He's got his heavy spears trying to hold you back, but it's just not going to be enough against all those Hastati.
Just cutting through Gate at this point. Almost all of Tylus, I think. Maybe all of Tylus is completely dead.
Yeah, and his general's breaking.
That's
like we couldn't even kill him. Like we had to make him break. Like that was insane.
So replay is done for you, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So we can go to end replay and look at the stat screen, see who did the killing.
Well, we did pretty even there. You got a good amount more though.
We had almost the exact same amount of men in the armies.
Yeah, that's
Only
true.
difference really was what is the difference? I
I lost
guess
more, and you killed more and lost less, so that's pretty effective there.
I'm the
So
best.
you
I'm
are the
literally
best.
so good at this game, dude. So yeah, Scorpions, 61 and 76 kills, very good, very accurate artillery piece. I like them a lot because they're really cheap, only 500 talents,
Yeah,
and it's not just the killing. Like people look at kills and they're like, oh, this is really important. Like, oh, they only got 30 or 40 kills. Like they didn't do very well. But you have to remember that HP in Rome 2 and Attila is very important. So you don't have to kill a unit. If you're doing HP damage and make it easier for something crappy like a Stati to kill, you're fine. So I mean, you look at this, like 200 kills Stati, 177 kills, 150 kills, 125 kills. These are 350 talent units, really cheap.
cheap.
And they
Yeah.
did that much damage because other units took the brunt. The veteran legionnaires went in and did HP damage. The Scorpions already whittled them down. The Syrian archers did some HP damage as well. So that made the Hastati much more cost effective than they would normally be.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that your veteran legionaries didn't do as well as your Hastati.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
well,
they were the first
they were
one
the
to
first
go
ones
in.
in, so
Yeah.
I don't expect them to. But yeah,
Right.
like they're the ones who established the beachhead, and then everything that follows is going to
The
help
Has-
out. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend in a siege like that sending in Hastati first. I think that's a waste
Yeah.
because they're not going to
Yeah.
be able to establish that.
Yeah, just wait for the enemy to be tired and then send in your fresh Hastati and they'll do pretty well.
Yeah, exactly.
And then on my end, I've got some Syrian archers getting 136 kills, which is pretty solid. I don't know how many friendly fire that is, but I'll take it. My first cohort doing pretty good, and they were like the first ones to go in. So even though they all kind of died there, they brought a lot with them. They took a lot with them. My Hastati not necessarily doing as well as yours, but I think you used them more tactically. I think I kind of just threw in my troops hoping for the best, lack of experience. But yeah, pretty cool stuff with our Roman armies. Do you want to look at the defenders and see
Yes.
how?
So Gojira, good friend of mine, brought a bunch of bows, which is interesting. I think maybe he invested a little bit too much in heavy bowmen. They're good units, like don't get me wrong, and he did decent with them, 100 kills on each of them basically. I think that he should have brought more of the axe warriors and more swords. So you're defending, you know that you're going to be facing Rome. I think you need
Yeah.
more swords. The Falksmen aren't going to cut it, honestly. Like maybe if you like flank really well with them and have something else engage first and then get a rear charge off, that's where Falksmen really shine, but it's hard to do in a siege battle when they're coming up the
Yeah.
siege tower because they're only facing one direction. So you can't really get those flanking charges off on them. Axe warriors did relatively well, but again, they're going to struggle against Roman infantry. Noble swords, 212 kills. They would have done even better, except they just routed because of army losses. The balance bar shifted too much, and the general just routed. But Granitor, on the other hand, bunch of kills on a bunch of his tribal warriors. Some of them didn't actually do particularly well though, which is kind of surprising. I'd expect them to do better on the walls because they're hands down one of the best sword units in the game. They're crazy good. So 278 kills on this one. That's very good. But 32 and 59 and 66, that's pretty weak. Even against Rome, that's pretty weak.
Well, he has a smaller army compared to the rest of us. Do you think he should have like spread his wealth around a little bit? And
No,
got more-
I think that sword spamming, I think that army build is the right one, especially if you're against Rome.
Okay.
So I don't know if like maybe he wasn't on the walls
Just his
where he
positioning.
wanted it to,
Yeah.
or it's one of those things where none of us really have a ton of experience on Rome 2 sieges, so like optimal builds aren't necessarily known. Like you know what's the best optimal builds for land battles because
Pitch,
that's what everyone
yeah.
plays, pitch battles. It's a little different in sieges, but I would
Right.
say that spamming tribals is probably the way to go. They're just
Well,
really good.
maybe I should focus more on Rome too and try to build up some good strategies. Since,
Maybe change the
Spread the
meta
knowledge.
yourself, dude.
yeah, there you go.
But either way, really fun battle, very cinematic, lots of
Yes.
good shots. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know that a lot of you enjoyed the cinematic style of Rome 2 more than the tactical aspect, but I think the best ones are the ones where it's very tactical and cinematic at the same time.
Yeah.
Not sure we delivered so much on the tactical aspect, but hopefully it was something that you guys enjoyed
It
regardless.
was like a popcorn kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
It
The
was a
Hobbit,
nice
The
little
Battle
movie.
of Five Armies. Just
Yeah.
not necessarily a great movie, but you
It
can
was
sit
the
back.
worst in the series.
Yeah, but it was full of action, so
Desolation of Smog was the best.
yeah, probably, yeah. But yeah, if you're watching from my point of view and you enjoyed the battle so much and you want to watch it again from Milk and Cookie Indie Pride's point of view. Be sure to check out his channel. He's got a great channel. And
Better
yeah.
effing sub me. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, sub or
Or I'll cry.
he'll cry. You don't want him to cry. Like,
And
yeah.
of course, most of my subs are probably subbed to Pixelated Apollo at this point. But link to his channel will be in the description. If you have not seen his content before, he is well known for his Medieval 2 Siege content. So definitely go check him out if you enjoyed this commentary. And we will do some more content together soon. And I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll talk to you all later.
See you guys later.
Peace.